Good day, everyone. This is Mark Schmidt, Superintendent of Schools, with a board meeting update. It is February 23rd. I am providing the board meeting update from last night, which was Tuesday, February 22nd. Before I begin the update, I'd like to express a big thank you to and congratulations both to Staples Elementary staff for their recognition from the Minnesota Department of Ed on being, I believe it was one of only 7 schools within the state to improve student achievement scores with our rate of poverty. So a big congratulations to that staff, as well as the high school staff for putting their heads together and developing a student registration and course offering for students that allows an expansion of 32 credits in various classes that were not otherwise offered. Thank you to those 2 staffs, and congratulations for the hard work you've done. Now I'd like to go into the board agenda and highlight some of the items that were discussed and approved by the board last night. The first one is a financial item, and that is a fund transfer from our general fund to our community ed fund for school age care. That is a transfer that takes place due to our passage of a referendum. Typically, as a school district or school districts levy taxes for school age care namely for paraprofessionals with children with special needs. Typically that is a 100% local levy on taxpayers, but due to our successful referendum, the school board has done away with the local levy and uses referendum dollars instead. And the advantage of that is we get state matching dollars for our referendum, whereas we would not otherwise. It was just a local levy. So that is the purpose of that, and that it allows us to leverage state dollars. In addition to that, since our community ed department took that program over a few years ago, at the time of the passage of the referendum, we were levying $44,000 annually. Looking at creating efficiencies within that program, our community ed department has now reduced that number to $25,000. So a thank you also to our community ed department for the work they've done in saving not only our local taxpayers, but making that a more efficient program. A large item that was discussed last night was also discussing the board approving the continuous community action plan activity that we have been working on since last August in the district. This activity has involved approximately 200 plus community members in getting input on what they feel our school needs to focus on to become a better school for our children. There was 3 items within the action component that the board approved last night. One of them was to create an all-day, everyday preschool, and the main intent for this is to, 1, meet family needs, particularly with either single family working or dual parents working. The other component is to better help prepare children before they get into kindergarten for the school readiness component of learning. This is a fairly significant task to undertake, and our main goal in doing, or our main strategy in doing this, is taking all the available resources for early childhood and begin to collaborate and consolidate those efforts for families. The intent is to have a program both at Staples and as well as at Motley, and that the long-term goal would be that this is a self-sustaining program. There are many different organizations and funding resources when it comes to early childhood. As a matter of fact, Dwayne Benson, who is the director of the Minnesota Early Learning Foundation, has informed myself as well as Chris Etzler that there are 35 funding streams from 4 different agencies for early childhood. So that in itself is a pretty big task, but one that is something that our communities are telling us that we should be focusing on, and one that can truly benefit and have a very positive impact for our children. The strategy in doing this is to employ a part-time director to begin to facilitate these discussions They will be working with myself, with other administration, and ultimately reporting and receiving approval from the board on what is developed from that. That's a maximum initial expenditure of $15,000 for this lead person to begin to investigate and look into the feasibility of this program. Our startup date on these programs would be fall of 2012, so that gives us a little under a year and a half, or about a year and a half, to put this program together. The next major outcome or goal to focus on was an evaluation, a comprehensive evaluation system for all staff. And that the completion date on that is intended to be by the start of the school year of 2011. And to summarize that plan, our steps will be to have 4 meetings with people from every employee group in developing the framework for these evaluations. And those meetings are going to be designed in that people get together, we lay out the parameters, then there's probably going to be homework for people to go do research and then come back together and better define those parameters. And that will take place beginning in April with the initial meeting, and then the other 3 follow-up meetings would take place in the summer. So we'll begin to put that team together, and we're looking at maybe about 12 individuals on that team, as that seems to be a number that is both a group dynamic-wise, a functional number, as well as a number that will allow us to get representative from each of the groups. And then we will be informing staff and laying that out in September of 2011. The third action plan was to develop alternative areas of academic acceleration. Specifically, some things that were mentioned by the public were career technical education, world language experiences, AP offerings, by engaging and to do this by engaging a collaborative use of resources, so that our students in our district can have a broader educational experience. And maybe to summarize that a little better is in trying to get the spirit of the conversations from individuals was at the elementary level looking at developing some gifted opportunities for children, at the middle school level to develop some more exploratory opportunities for children, and at the high school level that's probably a broader range in being able to both develop more of those career tech ed, hands-on opportunities, as well as electives and other post-secondary activities for kids. This plan is at this point less defined. However, we have a target date of April 1st to be able to have a game plan for these areas, and that the role of administration is going to be this summer to work with to develop a back plan and have something something developed by April of the next school year. So we have about 12 months to develop that, and for the administration to develop that action plan throughout the summer, and which would undoubtedly involve staff as well as parents in developing a plan on what those type of things would take place. Some of that has already been done, particularly like at the high school with, as I had said earlier, with the adoption of the high school registration guide and adding 32 more credits for student opportunities. But a thank you to the board and to all the community members and the staff members for their input on these action plans, and help to give us some guidance as far as an organization what we all need to be focusing on to make this a better place for children and adults. Other agenda items were the adoption of a high school registration guide. That's what I was referring to regarding the added added credits. There's also a component of that which is to, and I may be explaining this inaccurately, so I apologize to the high school for that, but is to develop course guides and syllabuses for families that are homeschooling, and to then step up our rigor on acceptance of homeschooling for credits, because when a parent, particularly like parents that homeschool a child for maybe a class or two, but yet when they're still basically in our system, they are awarded Staples-Motley high school credits, and we have a certain level of integrity to uphold in providing credits that are under the name of our school district. That was one of the components of it. The other component was to bring about a change from quarters to semesters within the high school, and the intent of that, I believe, was to better match not only what our area schools are doing as having a semester credit, but I think more importantly is matching what colleges, the credit system they go through, which I think the vast majority of colleges are on a semester schedule. Within that, that pretty well highlights the board actions. There was some other discussion on OPEB funds. These are other post-employment benefits. The board has bonded $1 million a few years ago to help fund that, and there was some discussion on how to best invest those funds for the short term as well as the long term, receiving the best return of those. No decision was made. Further investigation from a financial advisor needs to take place for that. There was also, as part of the action planning discussion, questions of the capacity for particularly evaluations and the development of these other course offerings, capacity administratively within the district to be able to facilitate those type of activities, and that discussion is going to need to be taking place will be taking place shortly, namely at a personnel meeting that's coming up this week, and with the board discussion, and that will ultimately have an effect as far as what those action plans will look like once they're developed, to basically look at the capacity within our district, both administratively as well as staff time on what is reasonable to expect from all those that are involved in that. A couple personnel notes. Letha Flickinger has been granted another leave of absence to care for her husband, and Amber Houselog has voluntarily reduced down to 3 days a week as she is pursuing another field of employment. So we certainly wish Amber the best of luck in her pursuit to other areas of endeavor, as well as we have Letha Flickinger and her family in our thoughts and prayers in regards to her husband. That pretty well completes the agenda last night. So I thank everyone for tuning in, and have a wonderful week, and stay well, everyone.